It's the Monday Morning Show. Today is December 13th once again. Yes, I'm recording 2 episodes today to make up for all that lost time. My name's Ken Salle, author and person you're listening to right now. So, today's episode, as you might have noticed, is titled,
I lost 30 pounds in 3 months, and so can you.
Yes, that's right. I lost 30 pounds in 3 months. Now, I'm not going to tell you which 30 pounds, but I will tell you I did have them as a part of me, and then I lost them. No, I didn't have them sliced off. I didn't have them removed in some terrible accident. It was actual weight loss. 30 pounds, 3 months. And since I know that people all over the place want to know how to lose weight, I thought I would take advantage of this opportunity to sell some books. So let's talk about books. I know you're thinking, when is he going to get to the weight loss stuff? I promise in about a minute I will. But as I mentioned, I'm a novelist with a few books on Amazon, and I've got a new book coming out in a couple weeks called Heaven for Now, which is the follow-up to my novels Heaven Enough and Heaven Denied. And I hope you keep your eyes out for it. I've got a few other series out there, monologues, essays, nonfiction. If you want it, I've probably written it. So head on down to Amazon. Look me up, Ken Salle. So is that enough plugging for one day? Yeah, I think that's enough plugging for one day. I'm not a huge fan of plugging my work. It's one part of my job that I rather detest. So let's get back to the weight loss. 30 pounds in 3 months. That's that 3 months started in September. Well, I'll tell you what, let me get to the root of my weight issues so you know where I'm coming from. I'm not just the fat kid who grew up fat and was fat and happened to be fat and also was fat. I actually started out this crazy journey 54 years ago as a thin kid. I grew up in a poor household, and though my mom, my single parent, tried her best to keep us fed, her 3 kids, well, didn't. And there were a lot of times when we wondered where our next meal would come from. So for me, I was kind of trained, if you will, to eat everything I could. And that meant cleaning everything off my plate and everything off as many plates as I can get a hold of. But then I became an adult and I started making my own money. And the strangest thing happened once I had money. I could buy food, and I just bought all the food I could and ate it. And so weight has been a struggle for me all my life because I have this instinct to eat just as much as possible. But even though I grew up a thin kid, I ended up a fat adult. So while I was eating everything I could, I also felt really guilty about it and really shitty about myself. So I was kind of pulled in 2 directions, making myself feel bad about eating, but having to eat everything I could because in the back of my mind, there was a skinny kid back there saying, who knows where that next meal is coming from? And as I say, in the span of, 34 years or so, for my 20th birthday, I just kept getting bigger and bigger until eventually I ate Cleveland. And about 3 months ago, that all changed. I wish I could tell you that it all changed because of a decision I made about my life or because of some great diet plan I decided to undertake, or maybe it was Atkins, or maybe it was paleo, or any of those other just stupid diets they have out there. I hope you don't mind if I call them stupid, but they're stupid. No, my avenue towards weight loss was a more direct one. It was kind of a sluice, if you will, because my weight loss began with food poisoning. I didn't say it was a safe method, and I could probably be taken into court if I told you that you should get food poisoning too. All I'm saying is I had a steak that about halfway through, my wife said, "I think there's something wrong with these steaks." And I looked at her and I looked down at my half-finished steak and I knew I was in big trouble. And I spent a week on my sofa just a few feet away from my bathroom, only moving for what you might expect, the mad dash into the bathroom. I'll tell you, there were times when I didn't know what was going on. And in hindsight, should I have gone to the hospital? Should I have seen a doctor? Should I have at least called someone? Yeah, okay, but I live in the United States of America where healthcare costs a lot of money. So I did what most Americans do. I said to myself, I think I can ride this out. And sure enough, I did. Fortunately, I think if things had gotten too bad, my wife would have just hit me over the head with a pan and dragged me into the hospital. So I had nothing really to worry about. So after about a week of getting to know my toilet rather well, I started eating just the tiniest amounts of food. I remember I started eating pickles because I had this craving for pickles. And after you haven't eaten really in about a week, except for a little to drink here and a little bland nothingness that my wife insisted was all I could eat, I really wanted something with flavor, and in my case, pickles happened to be it. And I was kind of surprised because once I started eating pickles, I knew I could eat like there was no problem. So as you might imagine, days passed, and I started eating a little more. And I was eating just the tiniest meals and feeling totally satisfied. And after a few days of this, oh, who am I kidding? After about a week of this, I realized that's how I should have been eating. Because I felt fine, the food poisoning had passed. I felt fine. I was hardly eating anything. And the only repercussion was that I was losing weight. So after having spent most of my life terrified that I wouldn't know where my next meal was coming from, I decided to take this opportunity to use this opportunity to find where my enough was. Because in my whole life, I'd never quite found where enough was. I just kept eating until there was nothing else to eat. That sounds terrible. I ate and I ate and I ate. There's just no other way to put it. If you've had weight issues, you got to know what that's like. And that's what I did. And it was only through the grace of having this really bad bout of food poisoning that I realized where I should have been as far as serving sizes. And I was tired of being fat. I mean, I would see pictures of myself and it would just send me into a depression like you wouldn't believe. So I was ready to start losing weight. And I got to tell you, I immediately thought, you're going to gain all that weight back. But I didn't. And I kept just gently watching what I was eating, just eating enough. And I know that that's rather vague, and certainly you wouldn't want to undertake food poisoning as a weight loss method. So let me give you 2 tips that I have learned through this whole process. The first one is to not restrict yourself from what you can eat. I think every time I've tried to lose weight, one of the worst ways to do it, one of the worst ways that I've done it is by saying you can't eat this and you can't eat this and you can't eat this. Because me being me, all I wanted to do was eat this and eat this and eat this. So this time I said, you know what? I'm not going to tell myself what I can't eat. I can eat anything I want to eat. I left it all on the table. Fortunately, this time I didn't sit at the table and eat it all. I left it all on the table, and that's my wife calling. So that was my wife interrupting our conversation. So anyway, can't help myself. So I where was I? I didn't tell myself what I couldn't eat. I left everything on the table. The only restrictions I gave myself were two things. I said, first of all, I don't have to eat everything at once. That was the rule. I can eat anything I want, but not at once. And that was helpful for me because that growing up as a hungry child, that panic of not getting the food was a real thing for me. But allowing myself to eat anything, just not right now, parsing out what I ate, really helped. I'll give you an example. I found myself taking food home from restaurants. Now, I know that's kind of typical, but for me, if there was food, I was eating it. I wasn't known for taking things home. But I decided to give it a try and allow myself to eat whatever I'd ordered, but, later. And this doesn't work for everything. I don't like cold food. But for instance, if I wanted a muffin with a meal or something like that, I would just take it to go. That doesn't sound like much, I'll give you that, but it helped me. And here's another thing that helped me. And it goes along the same lines, not restricting myself from being able to eat, but knowing myself well enough to know that when it comes to the fight between hunger and laziness, I'm an incredibly lazy person. So what I told myself is you can eat anything you want, but you can't eat it all at once. And this has to do with food at home. And I'll give you an example. When I used to make myself food, I would prepare these enormous meals for myself. And then it would be a challenge to eat it all. Rather than having a sandwich, I'd have a few sandwiches, which I could just make. I could slap those together real quick, just lay out the bread on the plate, slap on the condiments, slap on the lunch meat, slap on the cheese, slap on whatever else you put on there. Boom, 3 sandwiches. And I'd sit down and I'd chow them down. So now my rule is I can have as many sandwiches as I want. I can eat anything I want, but I can only make one sandwich at a time. Or I can only make one of something at a time, right? A small serving of something at a time. No big bowls, small bowls. And I found that I'm so lazy that after I eat my one sandwich or my small thing, I don't want to get up and make another one. So I've found a way to let my laziness work for me. And yeah, that sounds like a like a life hack in a way, and I guess maybe for me it is. But I think what I'm trying to communicate is you gotta know yourself well enough to know how to trick yourself into doing what you want you to do. I think there's always that voice in the back of your head, that unfulfilled person back there who wants a little more and is afraid that they won't get that little more unless they take it right now. That was the case with me. And then I got food poisoning again. A couple months later. It wasn't as bad. It was only one night. Hey, every little bit of food poisoning helps, right? But after 3 months, I haven't gained back any of the weight. I've lost over 30 pounds. And I honestly think that learning where your enough is and learning how to trick yourself into finding that place, for me, turned out to be a great thing. I honestly don't have the wisdom to tell you how to do it, which kind of sucks because you started this thinking 30 pounds in 30 days, I'll go for that. And then you thought food poisoning, I don't think so. But yeah, in my case, it was food poisoning combined with learning how to be a better me, so I didn't have to worry about getting food poisoning again, even though I did. But that's it. That's how I lost 30 pounds in 3 months, and how I'm keeping it off by knowing myself well enough to know where my enough is. Boy, when I think it through like that, I sound like William Shatner. Until next time, be good to yourself, Be kind to others. Let's make this world a better place. Go on down to Amazon, pick up one of my books, and I'll catch you on the next podcast. You take care of yourself.